You know, this is not how I wanted my first video on a new channel to go, but I guess I don't have a choice, because my plan for this first video was talking about potential draft options that the Broncos have, considering we have a first-round pick for the first time in 3 years. But, that's not the... I was going to say that's not the case, but that's not the video that we're going with today. Because for some unexplainable reason, the Broncos have traded for Zach Wilson. And I do not understand this in the slightest. Now, the trade compensation it's not like we gave up a bunch to get him. We traded a 6th round pick for Zach Wilson and a 7th. But Zach Wilson is considered, and I'm among these people that would call him this, one of the biggest quarterback draft busts we've ever seen. His stat line is equivalent to Jamarcus Russell, who many consider, including myself, to be the worst quarterback of all time and the biggest draft bust. And we traded for him. Now, I assumed that the Broncos would be taking a quarterback in the draft, because obviously. And I was hoping that maybe we'd take Bo Nix or Michael Penix. I know a ton of people are saying, get J.J. McCarthy. No. It's not that I hate J.J. McCarthy, but he just doesn't seem like he has that high of an upside. He seems like a really risky pick. But at pick 12, we could easily get Bo Nix or Michael Penix, because Williams, May, and Daniels are going to be off the board in the first 3, at least the first 4. And then it's probably going to be J.J. McCarthy, because he's probably going to be drafted way higher than he should be, because he won that championship last year, which I feel like I need to iterate, was mostly carried on the back of Blake Corum. But here's where I bring in a little bit of optimism. Because most of the time when the Broncos make a decision that is highly scrutinized, it ends up working out. And when we make one that is really liked, it ends up blowing up in our face. Because 2021, we drafted Patrick Surtain instead of Justin Fields, and it was highly scrutinized because everybody wanted us to take a quarterback. And Surtain is one of the best defensive backs in the league, if not the best cornerback in the entire league, and Fields is looking to be kind of a draft bust, and now he's playing backup to, ironically, Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. And then there's the Russell Wilson trade. Everybody, including myself, got really optimistic when we traded for him, thinking, okay, we finally have a franchise QB, and it blew up in our face. Even the second year, when we went 8-9, Wilson still looked like shit for a while, and he eventually turned things around and then got benched for Jarrett Stidham. And I have a worry that we're not going to take a QB now, considering we now have 2 on the roster. Maybe Wilson will fill in the same role that Brock Purdy originally did it with the 49ers, where he'll play like a third stringer and maybe not even be on the roster some days. And maybe we'll draft a QB, we'll have Stidham in there for a little while, then we'll put in the rookie, and Wilson's only there in case we get a bunch of injuries, again, like the 49ers do, where they injured 4 QBs in a season. Maybe that's the logic here. Send a late round draft pick for a garbage QB that'll hopefully never have to play. But I am shocked anybody traded for Zach Wilson, let alone the Broncos. I don't know what Sean Payton is doing. And again, I'm cautiously optimistic. Not about Zach Wilson. He's garbage. We've established that. He had 2 years as a full-time starter to prove himself, and he was terrible. Then he learned behind Aaron Rodgers for an offseason and still looked like shit and got benched for Tim fucking Boyle once. So I'm not optimistic about Zach Wilson. But I am still optimistic about the team, because again, anytime we make a move that's scrutinized, it seems to work out. It almost seems like there's an ulterior motive behind what we're doing. Because, like I said, in 2021, we took Patrick Surtain instead of Justin Fields because we had Teddy Bridgewater. We had just traded for Bridgewater from the Panthers. And honestly, I think we should have just kept Bridgewater. Because that year we went 7-10, And 3 of those losses, which could have been the difference in the playoffs, were because we played Drew Lock, because Bridgewater was injured. If Bridgewater plays the entire season, we might have made the playoffs. Would we have made the Super Bowl? Fuck no. But we could have made the playoffs that year. last year, we almost made the playoffs as well. Had we not had that slow-ass start where we lost to a bunch of shitty teams, like we lost to the Raiders twice, but we lost to the Josh McDaniels Raiders again. We lost to the Jets. We almost lost to the Bears. We lost to the Commanders, mostly because we got screwed on that 2-point conversion that should have been a pass interference call, but we still should have fucking smoked them. But, and if you're gonna ask me to talk about the new uniforms, they're fine. I've seen a lot of Broncos fans say they look like shit. They're fine. I don't know why we needed new uniforms. Again, this is the same problem the Cardinals had last year, where they were focused more on bringing in new uniforms than bringing in a competent roster. And this offseason has been very hard to watch because we've lost some of our best players. We lost Justin Simmons, who I absolutely loved on the team. He's gone. I don't even think he's been signed yet, though. We lost Lloyd Cushenberry, our top-tier center, to the Titans. We've lost a bunch of other players, too. We lost Russell Wilson, but really, who cares about that? We've lost a ton of players. We brought in a lot of no-names for the team. Like, we brought in a defensive lineman, brought in a linebacker, we brought in a center. We brought in 2 centers, actually. But these backups are just... This is a rebuild. And that's why I'm optimistic, because this is the first time the Broncos have ever fully committed to a tank and a rebuild. We didn't do it after John Elway left, and it almost worked out. We almost made the Super Bowl with Jake Plummer. We should have kept Jake Plummer, I should say. Maybe I should do maybe someday I'll have to do an entire video on Jake Plummer. But I'm cautiously optimistic about this rebuild. Again, I don't think Wilson will be here long. Maybe he's just here to gain some experience, and then we'll cut him next offseason. Again, it's not like we traded a ton for him. But, I don't understand this decision whatsoever. If we don't draft a QB in the first round, I'm going to be super annoyed. Super annoyed. And you better believe I'll make a video on our first round no matter who we draft. So that's all I got, and I'll see you all next time. Let's ride.